How would Jesus literally kill that lamb?
Yeah, that's...
No, he wouldn't.
How would he kill it?
I definitely see Jesus as the butcher, and
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Hey, it's Cam from Christspiracy, and I'm here at Huntington Beach Jesus March to ask, what would Jesus do about factory farming? Where are we right now?
Jesus March.
Jesus is King.
King Jesus.
Notice our shirt.
The Lord's promise. Are you familiar with what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do about eating animals? What would Jesus do about eating animals?
I'm pretty sure that he said it's okay to do it. So.
And they ate fish and bread.
You remember the story of Jesus and Peter? Jesus said, kill and eat, and then Peter said, no, I don't eat that non-kosher, kind of like non-kosher.
Well, about eating animals?
Yeah.
Well, when Jesus came, he came to fulfill the old covenant. So I think he would eat animals. Yeah.
Okay, good answer. Anyone else?
I don't know. I think, well, didn't he put the animals on Earth, like, for us? I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
I believe eventually, though, that he's going to, like, when we go to the new earth, which I believe is soon, the new earth and the new heaven, I believe we're going to be fed in a different way from the fruit of the trees and things like that. So I think we're going to have to change, but I think right at the moment he understands why we eat animals, and because that's how the world's been for millions of years. So
And it's
led to
and
this.
Genesis also that God, remember that God gave the animals, as
dominion. We have dominion over the animals. We have dominion over the fish. We have dominion over the earth, but we haven't taken care of it in the proper way. That's why there's whales washing up to the sea, literally.
But
18 in the
later-
past year, which is not a good
And
thing.
I just saw one was washed up here just this week.
It's right there. It's right down there.
Well, speaking in honor of the whale
Yes.
and this conversation,
It's horrible.
if Jesus does approve of eating animals, what would Jesus do to kill an animal? How would Jesus kill an animal?
well, that's interesting because the Bible doesn't say that.
How would he kill it?
That's a good
I
question.
don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little stumped.
Probably just not in an evil way.
Yeah.
Which would look like what? What would be an unevil way to kill an animal?
Maybe like, I don't know. Euthanasia? Is that the word? Like euthanizing them? I don't know. I don't know. Quick and painless.
Yeah, because he doesn't like to sacrifice. He did not like the sacrifice on the temples. He did not like the vending and the selling and all of the sacrificing of the beautiful lambs, his creation.
He wants obedience.
Yeah, he wants obedience.
Obedience
So
better than sacrifice.
I don't believe he wants us to eat animals. Like I said, I don't believe that's part of what we are supposed to eat. However, that's how we've grown up, and for generations and generations and generations, we've been doing that. Now, the sacrifice of the animals, no, I don't think that's right.
I definitely see Jesus as the butcher, and the guy who's grilling the burgers patties, the burger patties over in the picnic. I see him as being the provider. He ultimately is the provider. How he's going to do it, I don't know. But I do see him providing in every way, and he did say it was okay, and so I believe
Well,
that.
that's the question. So, the Good Shepherd photo or the image that we all know where Jesus is holding the lamb, right? How would Jesus literally kill that lamb?
Yeah, that's...
No, he wouldn't.
In the physical, I mean, he could spiritually do it where it's just like from one moment to the next, it's just not alive anymore. Maybe he doesn't even have to do anything, he just thinks it. I mean...
Do you know what factory farming is?
Isn't it just like mass killing of animals?
Yeah, and they put the animals in cages where they can't move very much, and they put a bunch of antibiotics so they never really see the grass or go outside or anything like that, right?
They put the animals in cages and steroids and all this stuff just to sell them. So money and greed, and money is the root of all evil. So to me, the way that they're handling God's creation, whether it's a human being in a cage, which child trafficking, they've put him in cages, or an animal in a cage to raise them quickly and steroid them and sell them on the market, I think both are completely wrong, and that's going to lead to the end of this earth.
So what if I told you that on planet Earth right now, 99% of the animals we consume, 99% are factory farmed, meaning they're in cages, they can't move, they're injected. 99%.
Wow.
It's wrong. It's completely
90 billion land animals are killed every single year. That's not even including fishes. If you add fishes, it's trillions. If that's the case, and Jesus were walking the earth today in human form, we know he's here in spirit. Okay. What would Jesus do about factory farming?
end it. Stop it. Done.
I see him doing the same thing he did at the temple, flipping the
Flipping
tables,
the cages
letting them out, running around.
Of the
and
children.
I
and
believe
of
they're
the
not
animals.
supposed to be caged.
Nope.
What would Jesus do about factory farming?
I don't think he would like it. Yeah, no. It was never God's intention for his creation to be, mass killings. And I was literally talking about this with some friends recently. It's never his intention for us to treat animals like that. I think we're meant to treasure them, and they're his precious creatures. So, yeah.
I don't think the issue is necessarily is us eating animals. I think it's probably just mainly that, how it's processed, how
I agree.
how it happens.
Shut them down.
Free
and
range.
No,
rebuild.
yeah, free range,
Shut down and
That's why
rebuild.
actually I did this diet that's a long time ago, that you have to go back to the Genesis, it's called Genesis diet.
Well, if you go back far enough in the Genesis diet, you land at Genesis 129, which is no slaughter. And like you were saying, in the kingdom of heaven, which Jesus prayed in the Lord's Prayer, that God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven, here and now. What are some qualities of Jesus, should I say? Well, what if you had to describe Jesus with some characteristics, what would you say?
Loving, kind, caring,
Yeah, humility.
giving.
Yeah.
So that's great. So what would be the loving and kind way to kill an animal?
I don't know. Well,
I think there's a lot of sacrifice in the Bible.
are we meant to treat animals like humans though? I don't know.
But to your point, there were sacrifices, but what did Jesus do? Tomorrow's Palm Sunday. What did he do in the temple where they were sacrificing the animals?
He came and flipped over the tables, but it was because they were making a marketplace of God's temple.
And what were they selling in the marketplace?
They were selling animals for sacrifice.
Exactly. And so Jesus comes in the temple, and do you remember what he says, his famous words in the temple? It is written. You remember?
Which
Oh, it
one?
was in the movie too.
Just recently.
Okay, say it again.
It is written.
Wrecked the whole
Yeah,
temple up,
there's
though.
a
It
lot
was
of,
so awesome.
there are a lot of it
It's
is
written. Yeah, there was tons of it.
He says, it is written, my house is meant to be a house of prayer. He says, it is written. Do you remember what he condemns them? The famous line when he's in the temple? He says, it is written. My house shall be a house of prayer
yes,
for all nations, but you've made it a den of
thieves.
Yeah.
Right. So thieves would imply the money, right? The tables that he flipped. But what if I told you he's quoting Jeremiah, the prophet? Though the New Testament is written in Greek, right? Jesus is quoting the prophet Jeremiah, who said den of thieves originally. And if you go to Jeremiah and you look at the Hebrew behind that word, den of thieves, the Hebrew thieves is actually paritz.
Haritz. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yes, I never realised that. That's a kind of aha moment.
That word in the Hebrew that Jeremiah is condemning, and Jeremiah is also condemning the temple. He's condemning the temple, and they even confused Jesus for Jeremiah early on in his ministry, right? Jeremiah says it is a den of paritz, which means violent one or murderer. And in Ezekiel 18:10, paritz is defined as a shedder of blood. So what kind of blood was being shed in the temple?
Yeah, animals' blood.
There's only one kind of blood being shed in the temple. Do you know what kind of blood that is?
The lamb.
The animals. So what if I told you Jeremiah, the same prophet that says it's a den of murderers, also said in Jeremiah 7:22 that God never commanded animal sacrifices when he brought you out of Egypt?
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
He never, when he brought him out of Egypt, I don't know if many know this, but when Moses was up on the mountain for 40 days, they were down melting the jewels,
The golden
and turning
bowl.
it into the golden calf. And that's where we have the golden calf is in front of the New York Stock Exchange.
I was just there. So I just put out a piece on that where I went.
Very evil nation.
I did this same thing that we're doing here, street interview, in front of the Wall Street Bull, talking about it. So
That's good.
But God gave us all of our animals so that we can use them to eat, like to provide for us.
which Bible verse says that God gave us animals for food?
Genesis.
Yeah, I know it's in Genesis.
Genesis.
Yeah. Let me see. It's gonna take me a minute.
It's okay. While you're pulling it up, because I have a strong feeling which verse you're going to pull up. In Genesis 1:26 through 28, dominion, right, is granted over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air. But the following verse, Genesis 1:29, right after God says, I give you dominion over the animals, do you know what Genesis 1:29 says?
No. What does it say?
It says that I will give you, humans, all of the fruits and the herbs for food. Trees and the herbs for food, the fruit and the herbs for food. So clearly,
Strictly for food.
strictly for food.
At the beginning of creation, yeah.
So does dominion over the animals mean animal killing and consumption? That's the first question.
Well, I mean, Jesus's disciples, they were fishermen, right? And we see him, blessing the food and the bread, or the fish and the bread, and distributing it among a lot of people. So, I mean,
So that's a great point. So what did Jesus tell the fishermen to do when he met them?
go make fishers of men.
Right, and drop your nets. He's quoting Jeremiah there as well. Jeremiah says, go make fishermen of men. And then after they drop their nets, they follow him. They leave their fishing profession behind. Now, when you mentioned the feeding the fish and the loaves, the feeding of the multitudes it's called. What if I told you in Matthew 16:9, when Jesus recalls that event, after the disciples are doubting him and saying they don't know if he's actually the Messiah that he says he is, Jesus' own retelling, he says, hey, wait a minute, don't you remember when I multiplied the loaves? And doesn't mention the fish at all. Why do you think he would do that?
That's actually very interesting. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to leave you with that because I know it's a lot of tough questions. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to take all the, but you should watch my film. It's called Christspiracy, like a conspiracy of Christ to create more love, kindness, compassion for all creation, including animals. The conspiracy of Christ into the world to overturn unjust systems.
And he's doing it right now as we speak. He's been doing it for the last, I'd say, 8 years in his timing. So this is the time for him to overturn all of it, not just in the temple. He doesn't want us to only be in a temple. He wants us to be the temple of him.
Right, and does he need us to kill a cow for it to happen?
To kill a cow. He doesn't need us to kill a lamb. He doesn't need us to kill the red heifer. He doesn't need us to put children in cages through the open border that we have. All of this stuff is now being revealed because in Luke 2:12 or 12:2 through 5, he talks about everything's going to be revealed. Well, it's all being revealed. Are many people awakened to the revealing? I don't know, but they should be.
They're the thieves. What's the right way to kill a beast? Sharing bloodshed just to eat. The truth you believe ain't complete.